If you're joining us online, welcome to Anchor Church. We're glad you're with us. All of you joining us at our Orlando Extension site, welcome. To those of you on our Indiana Extension site, welcome. We're glad you're with us wherever you're joining us from. You are Anchor family, so jump into the chat room. Our team would love to connect with you today. How are we doing this morning, Anchor Church? We are so glad you're here. And if we haven't had a chance yet to meet, my name is Shaun. And if we haven't had a chance yet to meet, before you leave, I'm gonna hug you. And if you're not a hugger, I'm still gonna hug you. We are so glad you're with us today. Come on, help me thank the worship team in leading us in worship today. Wow. We are so glad you're with us. And I am week 3 in a series that I titled Songs of the Shepherd. And what we've been doing over the last few weeks is we're walking through some of the Old Testament Psalms. Has anyone heard of a book called Psalms in the Old Testament? Psalms are basically musical lyrics. They're poetry that these writers would put to music. They would play their harp and instruments, and they would sing praises to the Lord. They would write music and then declare it. And when you read the Psalms, what you notice is that I'm intrigued by is they're very direct, they're very real, they're very authentic. Sometimes the way David writes his lyrics, I'm like, yo, David, that's just savage, bro. Like, that's aggressive. Like, who talks to God like that? But it's just the heart of David, because if God knows your heart, you might as well verbalize it. And what we notice about the Psalms is there's multiple writers of the Psalms, and they were written by shepherds and kings and exiles, and they were written on the battlefield and in the palace halls as trouble was amidst the kingdom. And all these writings just didn't come out of like perfect life situations. They came out of broken, battered faith. And we're focusing mostly on one of the authors of Psalms, the most famous author of some of the Psalms, David. David, who writes Psalms as a shepherd boy. David, who writes Psalms on the run. David, who writes Psalms as the king. David, who writes Psalms out of trouble, out of fear, out of what do I do next, God? And so it's just authentic prayers, authentic poetry, authentic words put to music. Week 1, we talked about Psalm 23, which is probably one of the most famous Psalms in all of Psalms, where David writes it later on in his life, recognizing that my whole life I was a shepherd, but what I realized the older I get, I was just a sheep. Then we talked about Psalm 51 last week, where David realizes, man, when I make a mistake and I go from being the sheep in life to the shepherd over my life, I always make mistakes. Anyone ever have that happen before? God, you're not doing a good job, so I'll take control. Let's see how that works out for you. And David writes Psalm 51 to say, Lord, I need to repent because I just made some horrible mistakes. And this week I want to talk about Psalm 27. Psalm 27. What do we do in life when we need courage? What do we do in life when we need confidence? What do we do in life when we feel like we're just being overrun or overtaken by our fear and our anxiety and our panic? Just by a show of hands online in the room today, anyone dealing with some stress in your life right now? If you didn't raise your hand, check the pulse, see. I remember when Teresa was in the hospital and I didn't know if she was going to live or die. I had no idea what was going on. I started talking to a counselor, and I was just processing all this anxiety and stress that, quite honestly, I'd never felt in my life before. And I remember him telling me, Shaun, you will never not have stress. It's how you handle it and manage it with the Lord that matters. And David writes in Psalm 27, and this is what he writes about. He says that courage is not self-generated. Courage is God-sustained. We live in a culture today where if you don't have courage or you don't have confidence, culture tells you just find it. Dig down deep. Muster it up. Fake it till you make it. Come on, somebody. Anyone ever had those moments where you are completely overwhelmed by anxiety and insecurity, but you act like it's all good? I've had those moments in my life. When we were getting this building, I was sitting around tables with lawyers and all these money guys talking about big dollars. And I'm just like, I know the Bible. And I'm just faking it till I make it, hoping that maybe they won't know on the inside. It's like a hamster wheel, just right? What David recognizes is this. In my life, I will always have fear. In my life, I will always have stress. And it's not that the fear or the stress goes away. It's that my God overwhelms it. And this is what he says in Psalm 27. Most theologians believe the context of Psalm 27 is David going through a difficult season. And when I say difficult season, I don't mean David had a bad report card. When I say David was going through a difficult season, many theologians believe that David wrote Psalm 27 as he's hiding out in a cave for his life because King Saul, who was jealous of him, was trying to kill him. And when I say trying to kill him, I mean David is playing his harp in the palace to soothe the anxiety of King Saul. And King Saul was so jealous of David, he hurled a spear at his head. You think you got problems. A lot of people don't like me. No one's hurled a spear at me while I'm preaching. No. Or many theologians believe that David wrote Psalm 27 as he's hiding out from his son Absalom, who was trying to overthrow his dad and overthrow the kingdom and kill his dad and take reign of Israel. Whatever the case may be, we're not talking about David going through a tough season. We're talking about David on the run for his life. And he says this in Psalm 27, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, so why should I be afraid? The Lord is my fortress, protecting me from danger, so why should I tremble? When evil people come to devour me." Understand the language that David uses here. He's not saying when people talk bad about me, when people gossip about me, when people throw shade on me, when people comment on my Instagram and I'm like, I don't even know you. When people are coming to kill me and destroy me, I will not fall. Though a mighty army surrounds me, my heart will not be afraid. Look, even if, somebody say even if, David goes, I'm going to get attacked. I'm going to have stress. I'm going to have fear. I'm going to have anxiety. But even if I have fear and anxiety and panic, even if those things begin to overwhelm me, I will remain confident. He goes on to say this, "Teach me how to live, O Lord. Lead me along the right path, for my enemies are waiting for me. Do not let me fall into their hands, for they accuse me of things I've never done, and with every breath they threaten me with violence. Yet I am confident I will see the Lord's goodness while I am here in the land of the living." He wraps up Psalm 27 by saying, wait patiently for the Lord, all those things we love to do. How many of you love to wait? I love it. It is my favorite. As of yesterday, as I was driving and the lady in front of me was on her cell phone as we're waiting for the light to turn green. And how many of us know that the lights in Florida remain red for many, many hours? And I was kind of in a hurry and the light turned green and I didn't honk immediately like a lot of you do. You know who you are. I waited about 15 seconds and then I gave a little, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like a, it was like that. To which she proceeded to roll down her window and let me know that I was number one. And then proceeded to cuss me out. To which I went, this is on you. I prayed for her salvation and wait. Some of us are here today joining us online and you've been waiting, not for an hour, you've been waiting for a season, waiting for a year, waiting for years. And David says, I wait patiently for the Lord. I'm brave and I'm courageous, yes. I wait patiently for the Lord. I don't want to wait. Let's be honest, I don't want to wait. Which is the reason why for many of us, when we go through anxiety and fear in our life, we don't wait for God to give us confidence and courage. We try to find it in and of ourselves. And then when we can't find the confidence in and of ourselves, we have more anxiety and fear. Come on, somebody. Because you think you can talk yourself out of it, but you can't talk yourself out of it. You know why? Because courage is not the absence of anxiety. It is possible, church, to have fear and faith at the same time. When we started Anchor Church, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that God called us, and I had faith. But come on, somebody, I had a whole lot of fear. What David is trying to communicate to us today is it's not that your stress or your anxiety or your fear go away. It's that your confidence and your courage and your faith are turned up louder than your anxiety and your fear. What happens to us is we listen more to the anxiety than we do to the King. We begin to stress more over what didn't happen than who God is. We, in our house, we have these Alexas all over the house, and Teresa has them all connected. So we could say, play worship music in the whole house, and every single speaker starts playing worship music. It's awesome. So we just worship all morning in the house, and we just got a new one this past week for one of our bedrooms, and it wouldn't sync. So the one in our bathroom was playing Hillsong worship, and the rest of the house was elevation worship. And it was driving, anyway, you hear two different songs from two different bands, and Teresa's just singing along. I go, hey, is this driving you crazy? She's like, no, I love this song. Do you not hear all the other speakers in the house playing something different? I'll get to it in a second. No, we're gonna need to get to it now before I have a nervous breakdown. Because I'm hearing other stuff louder than what you got right here. And what I think for many of us is we walked in today and your fear is louder than your faith. And you've got to turn down the volume of your fear and turn up the volume of your faith. David says, I'm on the run for my life and my fear is not going to go away, but I'm standing firm on the rock of my salvation. So what we got to do today is we got to learn to talk to our fear. Fear, you have no place here. You don't belong here. And even though you exist, my God is greater. I'm not trusting in my talent today. I'm trusting in my testimony today of who he is. So I'm going to learn how to talk to my fear as I talk through my faith. God, I believe today you're the source of all things. God, you are my everything. What we need to do is borrow some of this bravery from the Lord. Because if we continue to try to muster up our own confidence and courage, we will continue to exhaust ourselves out because you don't have what you need. So what David says in Psalm 27 is he says this. He says, point number one, the presence of God is the source of my courage. It's not me, it's not my money, it's not my bank account, it is my God. That's the source of my courage. Let's unpack Psalm 27. Let's leave this up here for a second. Now I want to unpack this. David uses some words in this first verse of Psalm 27. And what I think you and I think sometimes is it was just fluid conversation from pen to paper for David. And maybe he didn't really know what he was saying, but every single word David used was calculated to his fear. So he says this, the Lord is my light. What does light give you in the darkness? Perspective. When my kids were little and we put them to bed and Teresa turned the light off, and my kids would say, leave the door cracked a little bit because we just want to see with a little bit of light what's happening in the room. So what David is saying is, in the darkness, when I think everyone is after me to kill me, and I know everyone's after me to kill me, my perspective in the darkness is that you are my light. My perspective is, I may think I'm alone, but God, with you, I'm never alone. You are my light and my salvation. Salvation means rescuer. So you've given me perspective in the darkness, but you saved me when I needed rescuing. And God, maybe not in the physical sense did you save me today, but you saved my heart. You saved my soul. You saved my understanding. You gave me wisdom when I had none. You rescued me. You gave me perspective and you gave me rescue. And the Lord is my fortress. A fortress gives you stability. It gives you structure. It gives you a barricade. It gives you a barrier. It gives you boundaries. It gives you 4 distinct walls of protection. So David says, you are my light. You give me perspective. You're my salvation. You've rescued me out of trouble. And you've put a protective guard around me so that the devil and my enemies can't penetrate the wall to get to where I am. You are my fortress, protecting me from danger. So why should I tremble? Why should I tremble? What David is saying here is this. David's going, if I, on my own accord, try to trust in myself, I will always fail miserably. See, faith is not pretending fear isn't real. Faith is deciding that God is more real than your fear. Some of us walked in here today telling God all about your problems, but maybe your perspective shift needs to be telling your problems all about your God. David says, I'm not going to stand on something that won't hold me. I get this cute little stool off Amazon this week. Cute, look at the cute little stool. And what I noticed about this cute little stool is I looked at the weight limit before I purchased it. I think the weight limit was 50 pounds. And I bought this thing and I'm like, I got an illustration for this. I'm gonna stand on it. Now, I weigh 200. So who wants to take bets that this will hold me? 3 people are like, let's see the pastor do it. Let's see it. I'm here for a show. Let's do it, pastor. Who wants to? Should we test it? HR saying no. Should we test it? Listen, what's funny is, you know this won't hold me. And why do you know it won't hold me? Because the weight limit is 50 and I'm 200. You know it won't hold me, which is why I said, should I try it? You're like, except for 3 of you. Yes, try it, pastor. You know it won't hold me. But here's my thought process for us today. Yet you do this every day in your life. You stand on your money that you know won't hold you. You stand on your relationships that you know won't hold you. You stand on your addictions that you know won't hold you, because the weight limit is not sustainable to the heaviness of your problem. Yet you wake up every day and try to stand on the world like you got it. And David says, you ain't got it. Isaiah in the Old Testament says this, look, don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. I will hold you up with my right hand. What David says is, God, I can't hold myself up because I don't have the power. I can't sustain it. The pressure's too big, but I will stand on you because I can trust in you because you never fail me. What David realizes is this: my problem hasn't changed, but my perspective has. Listen, Austin and my daughter Alyssa, when they were growing up, Austin could sleep through a nuclear war. We could have a zombie apocalypse and we'd have to shake him up and rescue him and carry him to safety, and he'd still sleep on us while we ran. My daughter Alyssa would hear lightning and run into our bedroom. And I don't know why kids can't just wake you up. They have to stand over you for 10 minutes. And then you open your eyes, dear God. How long have you been there? 10 minutes. I woke up, there's a storm. Can I climb in your bed? No. Because you're too hot and you kick. If you were Austin, but no. But I would lose the battle and she would climb on our bed and then fall asleep. And the storm is still raging. The wind is still blowing. The lightning still hit. Yet she is. The storm didn't change, but the presence did. And so for many of us today, you're going to the wrong places for the shelter in the storm. And David said, what I've realized is in my fear and in my anxiety, I will go to the presence of God and stand on the presence of God because that's the only thing that holds me up in my trials. We wonder why we have anxiety problems more than ever before in our culture because we stand on our money, we stand on our ego, we stand on our pride, and it can't sustain the weight. And David says, I stand on my God. The second thing he says is this: what you dwell on will determine what develops you. What you look at, what you dwell on, what you focus on will develop you. Anyone ever looked in the mirror and had a zit and all you can focus on is that zit? And you ask people, I'll be like, Teresa, can you see the zit? What zit? Girl, you kidding me? It takes up my face, girl. And I'm 53 years old. How do I still have zits? I don't see it. You don't see this? How do you not see what I see? Because all I focus on is the problem. And everyone around you can't focus on your problem because they got enough of their own. When David says what you dwell on will develop you. Let me say it like this. What gets your attention will get your affection. And what gets your affection will change your identity. You don't believe me? Think about a sponge. A sponge has one job to do: absorb and release. And whatever you set the sponge in, it will absorb. And what it absorbs will be squeezed out. And we are sponges soaking up the ways of the world, which cause anxiety, fear, depression, and panic. And so when you stress and you are squeezed, what comes out of you? Fear and anxiety and depression and panic. And David says, I will soak in the things of the Lord so that all that comes out of me when I'm squeezed are the things of the Lord. Look what he says in Psalm 27. Look. One thing I ask, that I would be a millionaire. Make me a millionaire, Lord. One thing I ask is that you would kill my enemies. One thing I ask is that you would deliver me, Lord, from my problems and wipe out those that try to kill me. One thing I ask, Lord, is for the woman of my dreams to come into my life. One thing I ask, Lord, is for my boss one day to give me a raise. No. One thing I ask, one thing I seek is to live in the house of the Lord forever. I love that David says to live. Homeboy doesn't say, one thing I ask is to visit every now and then. One thing I ask is to come to church on Christmas and Easter. One thing I ask is to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You know why? Because Sunday ain't enough for weekly warfare. David says, I got to be in his presence every single moment of every single day, because 1 hour and 15 minutes, and if Shaun's preaching loud and long, 1 hour, 30 minutes isn't long enough. I got to be in the house of the Lord. Go back to that verse for a second, Navik. Look what he says. One thing I ask, to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. Look, delighting, somebody say delighting. Delighting in the Lord's perfections and meditating in his temple. What David says is this: you will eventually become whatever consistently holds your focus. Here's the truth. The truth is this: the enemy doesn't always need to destroy you. He just needs to distract you. You know why a lot of us haven't been to church for the last several years? Because you've been distracted. Distracted. And what happens is our focus and our perspective on our problems gets bigger than the presence of our God. Let me say it like this. I have lots of skits today. Binoculars have two places to look. This one magnifies. This one shrinks. So for many of us, you've come in today looking at your problems through this end and looking at your God through this end. And David says, what I've learned is to flip my vision and focus on my problems like this and focus on my God like this. Because I've magnified my problems and they've taken over my life, so God gave me the perspective to shift it. He says, one thing I ask, one thing I seek is to dwell in the house of the Lord forever and change my perspective to always meditate on the things of God and the goodness of God. I'm not going to dwell on my problem. I'm going to meditate on my God. That word meditate in the original language is the exact same word in Hebrew for a cow chewing its cud. Anyone ever seen a cow just do this all day? Do you know what that cow is doing? Cows have one stomach, 4 compartments to the stomach. So they eat food, take it into one compartment, but it can't go to the second compartment, so they bring it back up and chew on it some more. Then it goes to compartment number 2, but it still can't go to compartment number 4 because it's got to be chewed up some more. So when you see a cow doing this, they chew in their barf all day. Welcome to church. So what David says is, I will take in the things of God and I'll sit on it. But then I got to bring it back up and think about it some more. And then I'll swallow it and bring it back up and think about it some more. What we should be doing is all of us leaving here today going like this. And we'll know exactly what you're doing. I am meditating on the goodness of God. Too many of you dissolve it too fast. And David says, I won't dissolve it, I will delight in it. The third thing David says is this. He says, confidence is built in private before it's revealed in public. Can I be honest with you? I was writing this sermon this week and I was thinking some of the most despised seasons of my life were when God developed me the most in my life. What David says is, what I see as punishment, God shows me as preparation. You might know the story of David taking on this giant named Goliath. And how did David know he could take on a giant? Because of his talent? No, because of his testimony. King Saul said, how do you think you, little 13-year-old teenager with Clearasil on your face and 3 armpit hairs, how do you think you can take on a 9-foot giant? You know how he replies? Because when I was back home watching the sheep, I ripped apart a lion and a bear with my bare hands. Okay, you got a second gear who I don't know about, David? A lion and a bear come after me. I'm running, not ripping. And David says, I can take on the giant because God's given me the strength to take on the lamb, the lion, the bear. I could do it all. See, in Psalm 27, he says this, look, for he will conceal me when there's trouble, and he'll hide me in his sanctuary. He'll place me out of reach on a high rock. Then I will hold my head high above my enemies who surround me. At his sanctuary, I will offer sacrifices with shouts of joy, singing and praising to the Lord with music. What I recognize with David is this. The truth is that public courage is usually the overflow of private connection. Many of us wonder today why we don't have a love for God like we think we should. It's because you're not worshiping in private like you should. See, people want David's confidence without David's communion. Let me say it like this. If there's no cave, there's no king. If there's no lion, there's no giant. And many of us want to encounter huge things for God, but you've ignored the small things for God when he called you to it. The fourth thing David says is this. Waiting on God is not weakness. It's warfare. And I hate to wait. But waiting is warfare. Here's what David says in Psalm 27. Yet I am confident I will see the Lord's goodness while I'm here in the land of the living. Wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and courageous, yes. Wait patiently for the Lord. Do you know why many of us have fear and anxiety and panic? It's because we don't want to wait for the Lord's timing. But how many of us know that it's the stretching and the tension that build the distance? See, waiting on God is not passive inactivity, it's active dependency. Let me say it like this. This amazing bow and arrow. I was going to give it to Levi. You're welcome, Austin. It's a pretty nice bow and arrow. I didn't put the tips on it in case something happened. I am a secure marksman, but I was processing this past week. It's just logical. How do you get the arrow to go further? It's not a trick question. Somebody like, how do we get the arrow to go further? Tension plus extension equals distance. The further back I pull, the farther it will go. The reason why many of us aren't seeing God work in our lives is because you fail when the tension and the extension hits you. And you ask God to release, and so this is what it looks like. And you're wondering why you keep taking a nosedive in life. It's because you're not allowing the tension and the extension and the stretching to take you where God needs to take you. And David says, God, right now, I feel so much stretching and so much tension, but I will wait until your target is in sight, and I will wait until the distance is prepared. And so, God, when you let me go, I will go where I could never go on my own. What does he say in Isaiah? Isaiah in the Old Testament says this, but those who, the word wait in the original language means to bind yourself to. So what that means is while I'm waiting for God, I'm attached to God. So God, wherever you go, I go while I wait. I will not distance myself from you, God. I will wait with you, my God, because I know that when I'm with you, all things are possible. So I am going to hold tight to who you are and trust in who you are and turn down the fear and turn up the faith. They shall mount up on wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Come on, stand to your feet. See, here's the truth. God often does deep work in you before he does greater work through you. See, David teaches us in Psalm 27 that the closer you get to God, the smaller your giants become. Doesn't mean the giants go away. It just means your perspective on them changes. Maybe you're here today. Maybe you're joining us online. You've been dealing with so much stress and anxiety and fear and panic and depression. You have no idea what to do. I would suggest, as Psalm 27 does, that maybe you stop standing on who you think you are and standing on who God is. But you got to say yes to him to stand with him. If you're joining us online or in the room, there's a prayer that we pray that gives the Lord complete control and access to our hearts and to our lives, but you got to invite him in. If you're joining us online or in the room and you've never said yes to Jesus but want to give him your life today, I want to count to 3. On the count of 3, if you want to surrender your life to Jesus today, I just want you to raise your hand. And when you do, we're going to celebrate you with all of heaven today. But you got to be bold. So on the count of 3, if you want to say yes to Jesus, I want you to raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, just raise your hand. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, if you're joining us online, just jump in the chat room and say, I need Jesus, I need Jesus. We're all going to pray this prayer out loud together, but if you raised your hands, you just pray it a little bit louder because today's your day. Come on, lift your hands up all over the room, lift your hands online. Just say, dear Jesus, today I'm trusting in you and only you. I need your confidence today. I need your courage today. I need salvation today. My heart's door is wide open. Come live inside of me. Forgive my sins. Forgive my past and make me brand new. And for the rest of my life, I will follow you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Come on, Anchor, let's celebrate. Come on.